Welcome to From the Mind of Christine McConnell. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than the typical that we do, and that's because this is going to be a vacation episode. I never got to travel as a kid unless somebody died, and so as an adult, I have been able to go on a number of really fun adventures with my mom, and this one is going to be our most ambitious that we've ever attempted, and so I figured it might be a good one to turn into an episode. So that's what we're doing today, and with that said, let's begin. Our trip began by flying from Boston to London. We arrived pretty late at night and we took a car to our very first hotel, which is the world famous Claridges Hotel, which is located in Mayfair, London. The following morning, we started by having breakfast in our room, which is one of my very favorite things to do when on vacation. And once we were cleaned up and ready to start the day, we headed off to Buckingham Palace as kind of the first excursion on our trip. Okay, so something that I didn't quite capture on film was my mom and I went walking around Claridges, and we stopped in this beautiful little perfume shop, and I found this fragrance. It is so incredible smelling. It might actually be my new favorite perfume. So I'm gonna leave a link below this video. So if you are interested in checking that out, you can. Once we had sort of seen everything that we wanted to at Buckingham Palace, my mom spotted this bicyclist who had like this carriage behind him, and we hopped in that, and he kind of took us to all sorts of places we didn't even think to go. And one of them was the world famous Harrods department store. In a place like this, most people are going to be enamored with like the shopping of like the clothes and the bags and the things like that. And I spotted this giant kind of confectionery store, and that's pretty much where we spent most of our time there. So let me cut in here really quick and tell you something. When I'm at home, I stick to a plant-based diet, but occasionally you do find yourself out in a situation where there is some sort of like artisanal or very special custom-made dessert. And in those instances, I do have a difficult time passing. So on this trip, I am going to have to like break that rule just a little bit, and it's only for desserts. The following morning, we had breakfast again in the room and learned that it's not called oatmeal in Europe, it's called porridge. And then once we were done and ready for the day to begin, we headed over to Westminster Abbey, which I had never been, and it was incredible, filled with beautiful tombstones, graves, and all sorts of amazing history that neither of us had ever experienced. Once we had walked so far that our feet were killing us, it was time to go back to Claridges to enjoy their very famous afternoon tea.
English cucumber with lemon cream, and the last one is mortadella mushroom.
Okay.
And for your savory, we have goat cheese and sun-dried tomatoes.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
On the third morning, we enjoyed our last breakfast in London and then headed off to Heathrow Airport and flew from London all the way to Zurich, Switzerland. Once we landed, we rented a car that I could hardly figure out how to turn on, but then once I had, we were off on our way to our next hotel. It's like we're on the Starship or something. Before we got there, I had been so terrified of driving in a foreign country, and it turned out Switzerland was amazingly beautiful and very easy to navigate the roads. Late at night, we arrived at the Grand Hotel Giessbach, which is this amazing chateau hotel that is located right next to a humongous lake and a massive waterfall. It was so incredibly special and beautiful. I took pictures of everything I could. When we awoke the following morning, we were astonished to see this view from the room we were staying in. On one side, it was this unbelievably huge aqua lake, and on the other side of the window, you could see this beautiful waterfall that was so loud, and you could just feel the mist coming into the room from the window. Seeing this hotel in the daylight was absolutely just as impressive as how it looked at night, if not more so. And as we headed down this really ornate grand staircase, down at the bottom there was this humongous clock, and I am personally fully obsessed with clocks. I collect them, I've got them all over the house, and this one was just so fun to just watch because the ticking it was doing was so loud. Once we had wandered all around the hotel, we went on a little bit of a day trip to a place called Lauterbrunnen, and it's this unbelievable little valley village that is surrounded by humongous waterfalls, and the place just honestly looks like something from a Disney fairy tale. I don't know, there was waterfalls everywhere, flowing streams, clock shops, and beautiful little gingerbread structures. I couldn't resist but picking up several cuckoo clocks while I was there. I had them shipped to the house, and when they arrived, they were just as pretty as I had hoped they'd be. After exploring all we could, we headed back to the hotel to enjoy a beautiful dinner. They have an amazing restaurant, which the windows were open, bees were flying around. It was really, really fun. The menu was incredible and very vegetarian friendly. And we even sat in an area of the restaurant that was once a porch of the hotel. And there's this incredible picture that I was able to kind of line up where I was sitting to where this photo was taken. So the Grand Hotel Giessbach is easily the most mysterious, incredible hotel I've ever stayed at. It's really isolated, really kind of from everything else. So it was kind of a fluke that we actually found it because I wanted something unusual and I had to do a lot of scouring of the internet to find something, and this popped up, and my gosh, did it live up to everything I was looking for. Towards the end of the trip, we actually bumped into the general manager of the hotel, and he introduced himself and he gave us this book on the history of the hotel. as well as a jar of their kind of signature honey that they have privately sourced, I think, on the property. They don't sell this. It's kind of a rare thing to have gotten, so that was incredible. I don't know if you guys are fans of the movie The Shining, but if this place ever needs a caretaker over the winter to do murals or decorating or anything, my gosh, I would jump on that opportunity in a heartbeat. So with that said, we're going to now head down to Italy. Let me hop back in here really quick because something happened here that surprised me. When I looked at the map when we were planning on, like this route that we were going to do, it was like, oh, well, we'll go to Switzerland and then we'll drive to Lake Como in Italy. And the map looked like it was going to be like driving from Los Angeles to San Diego. So I didn't think it was going to be a big deal at all until I realized it actually required that we drive through the Swiss Alps. And there isn't just a road you go through. It's like you have to climb the mountains and come back down and climb more mountains. And if you have a problem with heights, my gosh, my palms were sweating so bad on the steering wheel at one point because we had gotten to a point that was so high on the mountain that nothing was growing anymore. So it was a highlight of the trip that I don't know if highlight is what I'd call it, but it was a little terrifying. Once we arrived at Lake Como, it was every bit as beautiful as we were hoping it was going to be. The first hotel we stayed at, I was so excited to go there. I had kind of planned this whole thing around it. And once we got there, the staff were just a tiny bit snooty and I felt so terrible, but luckily we were only there one night. It was very, very beautiful. And then the following day, we headed off to our next hotel, which turned out to be just incredible. The hotel was located in this little village called Bellagio. It was initially a private home that was ultimately transformed into this amazing resort hotel. It's called the Grand Hotel Villa Serbelloni, and it was so incredibly ornate and beautiful and very, very old. Once we were all settled in, we went down to the hotel's main restaurant, which was so incredibly glamorous, and there were a million courses, it felt like, and they were all so incredibly delicious. I tried to pace myself, but even doing that didn't help, and I felt like by the end of dinner, I was about to just die.
So we use this method instead of the classical to prepare the ice cream because with the liquid nitrogen they're gonna fall out.
It's like a potion. I know.
Now appear the rabbit.
That's what it seems like.
I loved this hotel so much that if I were to ever come to this area again, I would never consider staying anywhere other than this place. Once we were done with breakfast, we packed everything up, got back into the car, and headed to our next destination, which was Venice, Italy. One of the neatest memories I have of this trip was what happened right now. The plan was to return the rental car to Marco Polo Airport, which is the Venice airport. And so I had called the hotel we were going to be staying at that night and asked if a car could pick us up from the airport and take us directly to the hotel. Everything sounded fine. It was arranged. So when we pulled into the rental car place, there was this kind of really elegant man just waiting for us. Before we could do anything, he shuffled our luggage onto this thing and led us down this path to a boat and sort of got us on the boat. And I was like, wait, isn't there a car that was supposed? And he was like, no, no, no. You take a boat from the airport directly to the front of the hotel. So that's what we did, and it was amazing. The hotel we picked in Venice was a place called the Gritti Palace, and it was a structure that was built, I think, in the 1400s and then transformed into a luxurious hotel around 1895. Once we were inside, everything was so incredibly elaborate and so beautiful that I don't think the pictures we took really did it justice. And to make things even more impressive, the people working there were unbelievably nice and just kind of went above and beyond at every turn. The room was even prettier than I had expected, and I was almost giddy, I think we both were, with just how amazing everything was. So once we got settled in, we got all made up and we went out to our first dinner in Venice. The next morning, we had, I would say, maybe the best breakfast of the entire trip. And then we got all made up, and I went down to the lobby to ask if we could get directions to the Murano glass factory, which is a place I had heard of. And again, the staff were amazing, put us on a boat, which took us to the island of Murano, which I didn't know this. It's an entire industrial island, which has been dedicated to specialized glass making for centuries. And we went to one of their factories, which was just heart-stopping. This place does the most mind-bogglingly incredible glasswork. This particular factory is called LP Essential Murano Glass. And once we arrived at the dock, we were escorted in and given a private, absolutely private, glass blowing demonstration.
The master will make a bowl like this. It's the traditional shape we call handkerchief. And then the sculpturing technique, he will make a little horse like this in glass in 2 minutes of time. You can take photos, you can take videos, no secret.
I absolutely love seeing how things are actually made, and typically when I watch a demonstration, I feel like, oh, maybe I could tackle that, or I start thinking about how I could figure it out. I don't think so with this this one. I feel like I'd probably set myself on fire.
With a piece of paper, I would like to show you what's the temperature right now of the glass. We're talking about 1400, 1500 Fahrenheit. Now inside the glass is still very, very hot, but now it's soft. It looks extremely easy, but believe me,
It doesn't look easy to me.
you have to work very fast, and actually what is difficult is what he's doing with his left hand. So he's winning the gravity strength that makes, the glass.
I know.
Allora, if you want, you can also take a picture of the colors inside because there's actually
Once the demonstration was done, we got a personal tour of the entire factory and all of their archives, and it was so incredible to look through everything they had. I honestly hope one day I can have one or more of the chandeliers we saw in this house.
these are tiny tiles of mosaic stick one by one on the surface with the specific resin. You can even no, you just feel the texture. They're very tiny. You sure?
So getting to visit this glass factory and seeing how everything was made was easily one of the most incredible highlights of this entire trip. On our way out, we passed through a room that was filled with glass stemware, and I found one particular set that I kind of completely fell in love with. I was able to place an order for an entire set to come here. Every single glass is going to be engraved with my name, so it's just going to be this incredible souvenir that I get to keep and remember this entire amazing trip by. A special thanks to Marco Perricone for showing us this entire place and being such a gracious host. After having some time to rest and recuperate in our room, we went out to our second dinner in Venice.
Smile. It is. I agree.
After dinner, we went on a traditional gondola ride and then even witnessed a really romantic proposal. For our last full day in Venice, we woke up, had breakfast, got made up, and decided to just wander the streets and explore as much as we possibly could. I ordered some incredible pens and inkwells from the shop and even ogled this amazing antique silver crab.
How about the coffee? The
Coffee,
cafe?
okay. Capsule and coffee.
And a spoon.
Ovvio. Ovvio.
For the last night of the trip, we wanted to go to like a really amazing restaurant. So I asked the hotel, like, what is kind of the most elegant place you can suggest? They made a reservation for us. And when we arrived for that reservation, we realized that the entire cast of The Little Mermaid was what was on the menu. So instead of getting to eat kind of a normal dinner, we enjoyed a delicious meal of French fries and then dessert. After an absolutely incredible trip, it was time to come home. So on July 22nd, we made our way to the airport, and from there, it looks like we took a hot air balloon home. All right, we are back home. Everybody survived. Thank you so much for coming along with us on this really fun adventure. I know this episode is going to mean something really special to my mom and myself, so I appreciate you guys kind of indulging in something a little bit different this month. I am actively working on Halloween stuff right now, so I might be a little quiet on the episode front while I pull those things off, but we do have some really fun live streams coming up that I'll be posting about soon. So in the meantime, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again very soon.